Start up. I will call the meeting to order. The minutes of last meeting. Any changes or comments? Is there a motion approved?
Let's look in order. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th, 2017.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Bardstown Fire Department open burn permits.
I apologize, I didn't get these to Mary before.
I looked it up.
Okay,
before.
good.
It's just one little paragraph in
Yeah, that's all there is.
In our ordinance.
In the nuisance
I went
section.
to your website there and it had the link to it and
Right.
also a link to the,
Yeah, that's some of the things I copied for you were the air quality.
I didn't know there was a statutory burn prohibition from certain times of year.
Yeah, we
I don't know what they do
burn.
in the campground.
Well, but they're
park.
exempt, they're exempt as long as it is, recreational, like a cooking fire or something of that nature. And the reason I wanted to mention this, Steve Hadler with code enforcement, he gets calls a lot of times because he's out, trying to enforce the nuisance ordinances too. And kind of the way it works now is on open burning, they'll call the fire station. We had one today out by where Nickel is there, where they moved to on Withrow. A guy was wanting to burn some brush, and we always go out and look, make sure they're away from power lines, away from a building, and they've got some sort of measure of fire protection. But it's a verbal approval. So if Steve goes out there or the police department goes out there, they don't have any documentation to support that they've got my permission or the fire department's permission to burn. And so what I did, and there's other cities that I just did some checking. There are some other cities, but the one I copied you and what I handed out is an example from Bowling Green, Kentucky, of what they do. And basically it asks for obviously where the proposed fire would be located. They ask for 3 dates that they want to burn because sometimes the weather's not conducive. They ask for what materials are being burned, who the responsible party is, and a contact number. And then it tells them on there when they can burn, what materials they can burn and so forth. Because the second sheet is, that did come off the website from air quality. And I think, in our ordinance, it says that the open burning of leaves, brush, construction materials, or other debris. And I think that's kind of a broad brush to be painted with when on the air quality regulations, there's a lot that is illegal, that's noted as debris. And then there's a lot of things that obviously are legal to burn. And so I guess what I would ask is that with your all's input and whatever research you want me to conduct or come back to you at the next safety meeting or whatever, but I'd like for us to try to come up with some form of an actual permit that if somebody wants to burn, they would actually come in, fill out the permit, and have an actual document with them while they're burning. That way, if Steve goes out or the police department's out or a neighbor is concerned about their neighbor next door that may be burning something, they would have legitimate permission or not legitimate permission at that point. And it even says that, on the Bowling Green page, the last bullet point there says if the fire department receives a complaint about the burn, we are required to respond and extinguish the burn. And we tell people that now verbally, because, I'll tell somebody to burn and the neighbor's getting aggravated because the smoke's blowing against them. And so we just go and have it put out that way. And we tell them that, but we don't have anything currently. There's not a permit process in place in the ordinance. Like I say, the ordinance is just that one paragraph on open burning.
I mean, we could amend the ordinance, I guess, but when I look at it, it says, it requires your authorization. I think you might be able, by policy, be able to say, look, you're not gonna get my authorization.
And I'm fine with that. I just want to see what your all's thoughts were on that.
I don't know, let's
Yeah, that's,
So,
it would be a whole lot simpler
Okay,
than to go through a whole lot of red tape, because some of the, most of the people that have not got this happen.
exactly.
And then, of course, like, I've had 2 or 3 complaints about a neighbor over on Barber and
Yes.
Lane, and I called Steve
Yeah.
about it, and he went out and really I should have, it's really a far issue.
No, but Steve is, he also enforces the nuisance. I think that's perfectly legitimate, yeah.
I think somebody addressed it, I'm sure.
Yeah, Steve, I know Steve did, and we've had previous complaints that we've been out there on that same location too. Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, as a matter of fire department policy, it would be a whole lot simpler.
Okay,
Because you probably don't get that many, but when you do get
Right.
one, it's, if you just make the call or one of your officers make the call, then
Right.
most people abide by it.
Yeah. Yeah, usually it's spring and fall, people are doing their cleaning either, or after a major storm event. That's about the only time we really have a lot of open burning requests.
Sometimes you get overwhelmed.
I don't disagree.
Sometimes
I just didn't want to overstep by telling people they need to come in and get a permit and then, being fussy about it.
a whole lot of red tape, ties up a lot of your time, ties up a lot of your officers' time.
Right, right.
And people want to buy back most of the time anyway. But by police policy, well, no, in our policy, it states that, if we get a complaint from a neighbor or
Correct.
enforcement officer, whatever the situation might be,
Right.
we're going to make a call to you.
Right, right.
And this is what you need to do.
Sure. But that sounds good to me.
And you can document that and have it on file.
Right.
This is a-
Sure. Yeah. No, it's, like I say, that works for me. Absolutely.
Okay, you got it?
yeah,
Makes
I think
sense.
just use your authority under if they don't get your authorization, let's say that.
Right.
And I appreciate you coming, bringing it to us, so that way you.
Well, that was, like I say, the ordinance is not vague, but it is a little vague on, the process they should go through. So, but we can certainly, we can come up with something in-house.
And that way, if anybody question, you can say, well, I brought the safety committee, and
They agree
we
with
discuss
what
it,
we
and
said.
we're
Right. And
okay.
it'll help Steve to know if we've issued a permit or not too, so.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, we get some of those calls also. We don't know what to do with them, but we do
Right.
get them.
Good deal.
All right. Then, okay, Kentucky gun request.
I'm going to refer to the handout you have in front of you on the Chapter 130 offenses against municipal regulations 130.02. Use of fire, in the back of your handout.
It's the last page. Actually, it'd be the 13002A.
130.02A. On the use of firearms, bow and arrows, slingshots, other instruments. Kentucky Gun Company on October 6th and 7th want to have, they're having a promotion, and during this day, they're going to have a launcher that shoots blanks and launches tennis balls. They want to launch the tennis balls in a contest into a 55-gallon drum down range. And it will be at Kentucky Gun Company. They'll have safety officers and range officers out there at that time. This is a depiction of the launcher. You want one, Jeff? That's the
Okay.
launcher that they're using, and that's made strictly for tennis balls. It's an outdoor contest. They're out there on their own 6 acres and just want to be able, falling within the guidelines, they want to be able or have our permission to launch or to use that during the promotion.
And I was just looking up here on the statute, if I can find it, I was looking for the definition of firearm. I don't know if that would be.
Well, it shoots a .223 blank. It shoots a blank that's normally used in an AR-15. So you're going to hear a pop. It's not a loud pop. It's a very subdued pop. You will hear a pop, and it is gunpowder.
Right, okay. Well, let's see.
When is October the 6th and 7th? What days are those?
It's Saturday, Sunday, well,
Because, we can't really just say if it's a violation of ordinance, we can't give him, if you want permission to violate the ordinance, we might reword the ordinance.
That's on a Friday and Saturday.
All right.
Well, if you turn over to 130.03 on the second half, especially then our demonstration shooting shall be permissible in circumstances
Oh, okay.
and on premises that have been inspected for safety purposes by the police department.
And that has a definition, uses this provision shall include rifles, shotguns, and handguns.
Right.
Is that a rifle, shotgun, or handgun?
Well, it does shoot a projectile.
With a explosion?
With an explosion, so, I don't
The
know which
slingshot
category.
thing talks about, throwing hurtful
Well,
stones, or other hurtful
this
things.
is the same ordinance, this is the same section of ordinance that we used when they had the colonial days. I don't know if y'all.
And using the muskets.
Yeah, the muskets out there in Wickland.
Yeah.
They had the backdrop for the hay bales or whatever like that. And had the police department go out and check the setup and saw that it was
Safe.
okay, and out of the way, wasn't harmful to anybody. And it fell under this.
And I
special
think,
event,
yeah, a tennis ball be a whole
Well,
lot
I
safer than a musket ball.
Yeah, but they had
Yeah.
a backdrop bank or hay or something, whatever it was, and the police department went out and checked it all out to make sure it wasn't harmful to anybody.
Yeah. And we will inspect this beforehand.
Yeah, I guess what we need to do is either make a recommendation or not make a recommendation to city council to issue a permit. then.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably, and that way, we don't have to get into whether it's a firearm or, what it is, if they have a permit.
Well,
They either have one that they don't need or have one that
Yes, sir.
takes care of it, whatever.
You can issue it under this ordinance 13003, special event or demonstration shoot, which is what it is, so without a lot of education.
It falls within the current ordinance.
Upon inspection by the
Correct.
local police department. Make sure it's,
But yes, I think you'd have to bring it up before full city council.
well, they'll make their request is to present that, and then you can just okay it under 13003.
And we can either just let the city council bring up, or we can make a motion and have a vote on a recommendation to do it, I guess either way. Then I'll throw out there if anybody wants to make a motion, not, we'll just report it when we report the minutes and have them issued. I don't think there's any problem.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have any problem with it.
I have no problem. I want to try it, is what I want to do. Without paying for it.
Okay, so we'll have to put a condition on there that you
yeah.
check it out. and,
We need the test fire.
All right. I think it might be our, something else, okay. Committee comments?
Yeah, I'd like to clear up some information that I brought up in the meeting Tuesday. Not aimed directly at the police or fire. I was really a little bit out of shape with our administration. But we organized our pay scales and classification scale that when they didn't put everybody on an equal playing field with the insurance, and between the HR and the CFO, they concocted a little plan to do this, but didn't put it in writing. It's not documented anywhere. It's not in the ordinance form. It's not in anything. So I was checking on some other thing and brought that to their attention, and they were telling me this. So I said, no, I know better. I said, why was this never brought up when I was there? Because we were addressed at the time when we were passing out rates of increasing police and fire, and all that kind of stuff. Because it's only fair to be everybody should be on an equal playing field. And even though we do have a good plan, it is fairly compared to most other insurance plans. It's not that expensive compared. But I can always understand when someone's been used to getting something and then it feels like somebody's taking something away from them.
Right.
But it was never ever in any of our ordinances, doctrines, or municipal orders or anything where when they made that decision to do that they put it in place. And so when I was asked these questions, all of a sudden, nobody could remember. Mike Abel wasn't here. Larry Green couldn't remember. Gary couldn't remember why he did. And neither could Tracy, because she wasn't in the middle of all that stuff. So after they did their digging and found out there was nothing noted anywhere, and that's why I got a little bit. That's what you heard me say. This was more of an administration issue, more so than it was with the police and fire.
Right.
Because it wasn't their fault.
Right, that's correct, yes.
But
I think you need to understand where we were coming from.
I understand exactly where you're
Okay.
coming from.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I wanted to make that point.
Sure.
But, and I told Larry before he leaves that something, and I told Dick too, before they leave, something needs to be put into place. Municipal order, executive order, whatever the situation might be, where something needs to be documented, why we do what we did, and if we've got to correct it, if it should be equal play field for everybody, or whatever the situation might be.
Right.
Because if you don't, and everybody's gone, nobody remembers why.
Right.
And then you run a situation like this with one person question. And it could have been someone from another department, you know.
Sure.
Then what are you gonna say then?
Right.
Yeah, the chief and, it's been this way since the chief and I have been.
Well, that's all y'all knew.
Well,
Y'all didn't know
right.
anything. Y'all didn't
No,
know anything.
exactly. Didn't know any better.
Exactly.
No.
So,
And it really didn't, I don't think, come to light, at least at my level, that, you know, this is the time of year we have to re-up for our health insurance.
yeah, it's that time of year.
Right, and the guys asked the question to Greg, I think it was maybe some guys from the police department, well, the guys came back from the insurance meeting and they're all over me because this is going to hit them, you know, if it were passed, you know, it could cost them, you know, a few $1,000s a year, and they're freaking out, you know, because this is the first they'd heard of it, and I hadn't.
Well,
heard
that's
of
what I'm
it.
saying.
Exactly.
Just about everybody that you've got, everybody that you, especially everybody that's new, everybody that's been there for the last 5 or 6 years, none of them knew any different. Same way in your career.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Nobody knew anything different.
Correct.
And I didn't know anything different.
Right.
Because when I was mayor before in the council too, the insurance plan was different.
Sure.
But it was based on the same way that this was put in place with you all, that FSA we did back in 2005. But nobody ever documented why it was done or when it was done. And since then, police and fire have got increment pay raise to where they're right in line with every other department in the city. So the question I asked was, why is theirs different? And they said, well, it's always been a way. I said, well, wait a minute. Well, how come I was never informed of this? And all of a sudden, nobody knows anything.
Right.
Because I would address it back in time when we were making all those wholesale changes and raises at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I was a little,
You were hot.
I was really hot. I was just, I was a little perturbed. Like I say,
Sure.
it was an administration issue that should have been addressed at the time, and it wasn't. And now all of a sudden, about, I don't know, I can't remember. I don't know why we did this.
Sure.
So,
Mm-hmm.
If I may speak, please. I listened to the meeting through the speakerphone, and if I'd been here, I'd been able to make some comments, but I always want what's fair for the city employees, the policemen, and the firemen. After I found out about this, you know, you have received different raises, okay? And I'm just going to use the customer service as an example. They make less than the firemen and the policemen. So I think it's disingenuous to say that, you know, well, they're going to lose money. Well, these young ladies that are at the front line, they pay their insurance. So I only think it's fair that the departments do pay for their insurance, and everybody across the board is the same. You know, no one's job is more important than another. But when it comes to health insurance, it's very important that everyone that wants to be covered is covered, but that it's fair. And so when I heard the statements that you made, you know, I couldn't speak. So I was hoping that this was going to be brought up so that I could address it. So I just want you to know that I support you guys, but to be fair, it would only be appropriate that that they pay their fair share, because there is a department, or maybe two, that make less than those departments, and that's not fair.
No, I agree with you, and I would ask if you are gonna raise it, which there's a strong probability that will happen, that maybe we do it in increments and allow them to get used to it as it gets forward until we come up to the full 100%.
And I understand that point as well. And another point I'd like to make was that, now we have the possibility of other employees and departments finding out now that you guys haven't been paying for that insurance for years. And the way they found out it just wasn't right. Also, your department found out from the police department.
Right.
I didn't like to hear that because of the way that they found out. So I just hope in the future that we're able to make sure that everything's addressed appropriately.
Which way did they find out? I'm not aware of that.
Well, I do know that a personnel of yours addressed it with other policemen, which started a little stink, and then it went to the fire department as well. So, and I can talk to you offline about that.
Okay.
But once again, to reiterate, I would like to see that you guys, pay your fair share, so that everyone be on the same sheet of music.
Of course, I'm got a new council member here. It was my understanding, I haven't dug into it, it was my understanding, based on history of it, that this was done in lieu of a raise at that time. That the other rest of the city employees got a raise instead of going to
That was what I
fire
thought.
department.
I was there.
I was gonna say, that was discussed.
I was there.
And it saved the 40% retirement contribution by doing it this way or something.
But what happened was, that was back in 04, 05, whenever we went to that self-insured FSA thing, that was when the state mandated that the cities were gonna get tagged with this hazardous duty retirement thing, instead of where the regular employees paid like 16% of it into the retirement, that the police and fire hazardous duty went to 38%.
Yes.
So that was taxing a lot of, that put a hamper on a whole lot of cities' budgets. We were just fortunate enough to be able to offstand it, but we made all our regular contributions that we should have made. A lot of people did, the state didn't do it. That's why they're in the retirement situation they're in right now. The CERS did, but the state didn't do it. They made us do it, but then the state people didn't do it, and that's why they're a mess. But anyway, we did what we had to do. But at that time, the fire people, and we didn't have 24-hour, 48-hour fire people.
Right.
We only had 4 or 5 at the time, and the police officers at that time weren't getting that
Hazardous duty.
Yeah. So to offset their pay at that time, because we didn't know how we were going to deal with this hazardous duty stuff.
Sure.
Just a retirement thing, so we didn't know how we had to budget there. It was just so they didn't. I think it was kind of, Dixie was mayor at the time, but then as things got better and we changed our pay plans around and increased everybody's pay and stuff like that, they never did change that. It never got addressed. And so now, I know when I came along, we redid everybody's pay rate, 85% pay rate, so they hadn't had a raise in 4 or 5 years, I know. So we gave everybody a pay raise, and we adjusted a lot of the other salaries, a lot of the departments to where they're comparable with the industry standards. And that's when the police and fire got up to par with everybody else. Regardless, because we had already tackled this hazardous duty retirement.
Without a consideration of health insurance.
Yeah, but it just never got addressed. And that's when I said it was an administration issue, more so than a department issue. And it should have been addressed at that time.
And of course, you've talked about the police pay in the past and everything, and I think one of the things that was discussed, even though we may be below par, and I think maybe the same thing goes with the fire department, even though we were below par, that we had a much better insurance package that would offset some of that. So,
which will go away.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, we
you
did,
might have to
we
look at a
did
raise
do the
also,
Paul
though.
Combs study as well, to make sure that everyone was up to par, and the ones that weren't were raised. I know there were some in your department that were raised. So, you know, I don't want to, you know, debate you on that, but,
Right.
you know, there was a Paul Combs study that was before you got here, you were here.
I've got a copy of it.
So, you know, everyone was brought up to par according to that study, because that's a study we paid for. Then he came in here and he adjusted the pays appropriately. So, you know, I understand what you're saying, but I don't want us to get off on what we paid for
Agreed.
and what you were adjusted for.
Yeah.
And the same thing, at that same time when we did that, when everybody got that what they did, they gave employees, they paid $300 a month into this FSA thing, which basically got gave like $3,600 a year raise. But I mean, that they put in this FSA to pay to help offset the insurance. And what happened, even with the council people at that time, because by statute, we couldn't get a raise if we were on the policy. So they actually paid the council people's insurance also, the ones that were on it. A couple of them retired. But like for me, for example, you know, because that was the time when they did that we could get into the CERS retirement. And if we were to say work 100 hours a week, then we could qualify for the insurance also. But we couldn't get a raise.
Or a month.
A month.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I
We
work
couldn't-
100 a week.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we got
retirement's 100 a month.
But what I'm saying is, so to be fair to everybody that was under the coverage there, they instead of giving us an extra $300 a month paid into our retirement fund, because we couldn't do it by statute. What we get paid, they offset that with our insurance. So we hadn't paid anything until well, I hadn't paid it from the time I was councilperson through I was mayor until, so then when it come back in this time,
Started at 15.
this year, and I guess John did too, I guess, are you on the city insurance too? Well, so I said, what has changed? That's how the question came about. I said, well, what has changed from the time I left to the time I come back 2 years later?
Right.
And all of a sudden, nobody could remember.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry said, well, you've always paid it. I said, no, I haven't. So that's when they had to go back and dig back and then found that there was no documentation anywhere about anything. So that's
Yeah, I appreciate your explanation.
Yeah,
I really do.
So that's why that's the point that I was making.
Yeah.
Not directed towards anybody in particular.
Yeah,
sure.
But to understand that, like I say, that was an administration issue that should have been addressed and documented more so than.
But then again, I would ask, just for morale purposes on my department, I'm sure on yours, if we could figure out a way to do it incrementally, that would really help us.
If we did all in 1 year, that'd be a heck of a hit.
Yeah, that's,
Be-
if we could do it
Be a pretty good
incrementally,
percentage
you
of
know, like, I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
Well, I'm just giving the rest of the story.
Oh,
right.
That's the issue.
I appreciate that.
And that's up to council then, and the mayor to address.
But, you know, in fairness to all the other parties, I wouldn't want their morale to go down either.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Agreed.
I know there's, every department has got a lot of people that work hard, and no doubt about it.
So, anyway, that's to be addressed. I just wanted to give you all understanding where I was coming from.
Sure.
Not that I was directed towards anybody
Right.
in particular. But I went, yeah, I was, administration. That's why I was a little teed up with them. They didn't do the rest of the story. But that's all my comments I can give.
Y'all on the committee too, so y'all have any comments?
No.
I have two things that I need to address with you, just to let you know what we're doing. Our tasers are quickly running out of,
Jeez.
they got juice, but they're running.
Capability to charge?
Capability and each taser's got a charger, but they're old. They're 9, 10 years old. I'll be going for a grant through the state to purchase enough for all my officers. It won't cost the city anything, but just to let you know that we are granting. I may have to bring the grant before council for approval to get it, but it'll be through the state DOJ, and they'll supply us brand spanking new tasers with a lifespan of 5 to 8 years. So that's up there. And I took, after the uproar at the end of the school year, I had the 2 school superintendents in my office for about 3 hours one day, and we discussed school resource officer program. Laid it out, laid the money out to them for an SRO in each school district within the city limits. Their cost would have been approximately $56,000 a year to have an SRO full-time at the schools. They both turned me down, so if there's any uproar, that we have done our part on trying to address that problem.
There, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we had an opportunity to share, it was a program where we could share SROs in the city and the school system, and the thing was for a 3-year period. But the deal was, if we split it for 2 years, the 3rd year, I think the city would have to pick up the whole tab. That may be different, I'm sure.
Yeah, on my proposal, they would pick up 9 months out of the year for the school year, and the city would pick up 3 months during the summertime when we would have the officer back on the street when it's busy. And that's what my proposal was. Their cost would have been $56,000. Our cost would have been $19,000 per officer. And that includes a new vehicle for both officers, wages and benefits.
Well, one of the reasons I thought that they didn't particularly care about having a student, I know one particular system in particular.
That's out here on Bloomfield Road?
Well, but well, if you've got a SRO
On site.
on site,
Yes, sir.
and there's a situation, say a kid is picked up for drugs or whatever. Well, sometimes the school system thinks that that kid would better be served if he was in a counseling program or he had other than being arrested.
Yeah.
So then they have to weigh, are we helping this kid by arresting, or are we helping this kid if we can send him to counseling or rehab?
And that's why they have drug court to get them into counseling.
Yeah, so that was a big debate at the time, but an SRO, if he's there and on site and he sees something going down, by law, he has to do
Correct.
what he's supposed to do.
Correct.
And there's no gray area about that.
And I brought that up to them also. The SROs aren't there to discipline children. They're not there. They're there to keep the peace and keep people from breaking the law. And if you look at the history of the program, schools that have traditionally had problems, you get a full-time police officer in there who can talk to kids, can create a bond with the kids. A lot of their problems go away fairly quickly. We had police officers there for, I think, 2 weeks at the end of the year at OKH and Nelson County High. Worked wonders. I mean,
They used to have one.
They did it. They had a county sheriff out there,
Yes.
and Sheriff Mattingly stopped it because he was getting no support. Yep. But just to let you know, we've tried. It's didn't go anywhere. That's all I
You
have.
did your part.
We did. Yeah, the city did our part. That's all I have, sir.
All right. Any other comments? Motion, well, no, we're gonna announce the next meeting. September 14th, 2017, be 5 o'clock here. Unless we call a special meeting for some reason beforehand, but it looks like we made it through several months before that one, so. All right, motion adjourned.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.